For all those that haven't heard us yet, it's because we ain't do nothing yet for the new year, 2023. Episode 50, we have a very, very special guest with us to hit us with a milestone. Um, he has a very large title, but he comes from the new business school at Lehman, Mr. Lawrence Fauntleroy. I just want to make sure y'all say this correctly. Don't step on the man's on his title. You know what I'm saying? Please make sure it's said all the enunciations. I need everything. Talk to me.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm gonna do my best, Michael Strahan. You know what I'm saying? You always got to go to the notes. You know what I mean? So my man Lawrence, he is the Director of Experiential Learning at the New School of Business over at Lehman College. Man, listen, Lawrence, we are so happy to have you here because this is our 50th episode, right? 50 is big for us. It's a milestone, 2 years into this podcast game. And we always try to bring topics that are relevant, topics that can help our people, be beneficial. And, just knowing you and your story, I think this would be very, very helpful for those kids who are either approaching college, in college, and really looking at, what's the best way to prepare themselves for the next level. So first off, man, just tell them a little bit about yourself, man.
I'll start with, let's just start where I am. Lehman College, thanks for, you know what, the experiential learning thing wasn't even a hard part. Your nephew, I forgot your name, I'm sorry.
Kenny, sir.
So Kenny even pronounced my last name right, Lawrence Fauntleroy. Like some people can't even do my last name. So big shout out to you. So I'll just start there. So I landed in Lehman about 5 years ago. I was running a program, and I'll preface those 5 years by I know Shawn because I spent 27 years in the healthcare industry and healthcare IT. And I met Shawn on the tail end of when I left healthcare. I spent 3 years at Mount Sinai, but all in that whole healthcare landscape, I spent about 27 years of my career in there. I decided life does this thing where it's like a crooked line. So a crooked line took me someplace else. I lost my youngest brother in a motorcycle accident, and I just, the glass looks different. Your outlook in life starts looking different. And leadership and impact is something that I always do, not naturally, because there's no destination to leadership. You don't land on an island for leadership. It just ebbs and flows. Right. You're always changing. You're always in situational leadership, servant leadership, transformational leadership, transactional leadership. So you're always, and I knew that. And sometimes I just felt like, healthcare, I had exhausted those possibilities with leadership, and we can get into that later. And so I actually went back to get my degree because I almost felt like a little bit of an imposter syndrome because I was hiring people that had college degrees. I was coaching kids on going back to college and staying in school, and I hadn't done that myself. And so I gave myself a timetable I went back to school with 23 credits, and I said, I got to get my bachelor's and my master's in 3 years. And I lost hair. You can't see it, but I lost hair doing it. And it was the best. It was the best thing. My wife's support was just saying. I mean, Shawn knows the story. I left healthcare. I just was like, I'm done, right? Literally, it was on my honeymoon because my brother was supposed to be the best man at my wedding. So, when that didn't happen and he passed away, me and my wife just, we just said, let's just go. We're gonna go. Let's get married. We already had the paperwork. And let's just disappear. And I think on my honeymoon, I just realized like this is not my calling anymore. Like it just wasn't my calling. I didn't know what was my calling, but I just knew that I had exhausted what was happening in healthcare, and it was just becoming a different platform for me. And I just had to find my way. And I just felt like, let me go do the things that have always been bothering me. And I put a little plan together with we were going to buy a house. And I said, okay, this is the finances we got. I'm gonna go to school. This is what we got to pay for. I'm going to start I want to do all these things. And when I went back to Lehman and did my my undergraduate, then my master's in 3 years, they just never let me go. They just say, you're the kind of person that we want here. And I was on the ground. So I was trying to run a nonprofit. I started a nonprofit I was trying to run. So I was coming to class in the morning with regular traditional students looking like this every morning, right? I come in and they're like, "Oh, professor," I'm like, "Nah, I'm in the front of the back row with you." But I think what happens when you're an adult, you're just a lot more intentional about your learning and what you want to do. And you see it, and we talked about this before we started, is that you see it more as an experience and less of an event, right? And so I thought that that's what was going to be my proposition value back to the school was you got to make education an experience. People don't learn with events. They just don't. You have to make sure that this is an experience. And that's what college had originally been designed to. Liberal colleges were designed so that me and you, people from different nationalities and walks of life, can all get together and put their brains together and go, okay, what's new? How did we learn? How do you learn? How do I learn? And now we've just made it a very transactional experience where you pay, you remember a couple of things, then you get out, good luck with that, right? And you know, some of the things that Shawn and I are trying to do with trying to make a relationship between Mount Sinai and Lehman is we're looking at, I want to make sure that the students that we introduce to Mount Sinai are prepared, not with a degree, but are prepared to make an impact, are prepared to be curious, right? To be like, why do we do it like this, right? And so I love that kind of stuff. And so I guess it was my calling. And sometimes you figure that out late. And I think that's what I did. I just figured it out late.
Yeah, man, it's great, man. Better late than never. I
Yes,
think
sir.
that's the most important thing. And one of the key things you said there is preparing them for, you know, that next career path, right? And that's where the learning becomes intentional more than just the usual curriculum that you throw at them. And like you said, hopefully you have to use it at some point in life, right? Yeah, I think that's great, man. So when you finally say, listen, I'm leaving healthcare to go, you know, go after what I really love, I know there has to be a part of you that's like, what are you doing? Like you're uprooting from something that you've been doing for so long. What made you say, I'm not going to let anything doubt me?
Wow, that's a great question. So two things happen. First of all, they don't pay you well on this side of the fence, right? So I had to come to grips with that. Like they do not pay you well on this side of the fence. In comparison, from me being, you know, I was a director at Mount Sinai. With, I really could pay the bills and have money left. You know, the whole thing. I mean, look. In healthcare, you can be a professional. There's a professional living there. Like you can put away for your family, you can buy houses, you can do all that kind of stuff. So I knew I was up against that friction. What actually changed me was a really close friend of mine made me say, I have to leave. And you actually know that person, Shawn. So Ed Peterson, who I've known for 30 years, who was incredibly supportive when my brother died, the whole thing. I came to his office after 3 weeks and I was depressed, right? I was in this depressed mode. Look, my brother was 8 years younger than me. It was my precursor into being a father, right? Because I was raised single mom, and I had to raise my brothers, right? I'm the oldest of three. And so I got that precursor, make sure you're responsible for this. And so leadership came into my life really early. And I didn't want it. But you know how it is growing up when you have limited resources. It's like, you don't want this, but you're responsible for the key to the house. You're responsible for your brothers. You're responsible to make sure they're doing the right thing. So leadership kind of landed in my lap. And when I got back after my brother passed away, I went into my close friend Ed Peterson's office, and he looked at me and he said, and he didn't mean any malice by this. He didn't mean any harm by this, because I know our relationship. We've known each other for 30 years. He said, "El, I know your brother died, but we got to get this project done," right? And so what I saw in that moment was I like that? Was I like that when people died, when people lost loved ones, when people were going through traumatic issues in their life? Was I becoming that? And that's what just said, I'm going to have to figure out if we're going to downsize from going to the Ritz-Carlton to, Hampton Inns, wherever we go, everything had to downsize, right?
Yeah.
I realized in that moment is that everything up here was going to go up from this moment on, right? That I would not be compromised in that way again. And I would make sure, and again, kudos, I love Ed Peterson, right? Like I said, that has nothing to do with the job. We've been friends for 30 years, our families, the whole thing. But I just didn't want to be in that space. I didn't want to be that person that did that and not know, and they didn't mean anything. I didn't want to do something and not know that the kind of effect it had. And so that's what solidified my decision. I mean, I don't think I ever look back. Anytime I question my judgment, I just said either I'm going to get another job or I'm going to teach, which I started doing. I just looked for another avenue on where I was at, but I never kind of looked back and said, damn, I should
A lot
be
of
in
things
healthcare.
coming. As you can see, the
Merch is here.
merch
The merch is
is
here.
on.
You gotta plug that. Shop it. FCP.
Yeah,
It's open, man.
FCP. You know what I'm
Shop is open.
saying? Definitely, man. If you look in the comments, if you look in the link, you know what I mean? Just click on there. We got everything for you. We got something for the men, something for the women, something for the kids. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate all the love you show, man. You can reach out to us, connect with us on social media, all that good stuff, man. Really, we're just so thankful that you spent this time with us.
Yeah, man. You could have been doing anything else. We appreciate you, man.
For real, man. And if you purchase anything, just tag us in it or tag Freedom Cage Podcast in it, man. We appreciate it. We want to get it out there.
Funny, like a lot of young corporate adults, they usually get to that milestone or that bridge in their path where they kind of have a lot of years vested in one particular space, and they've been able to climb the corporate salary ladder, so to speak, and they're content with that. They're happy with the amount of money they're getting, but they notice their happiness start to drift off.
Right.
And then it's always that friction of, am I ready to let that financial support go to chase my actual happiness? Am I waking up, going out to do? But salute and congrats to you for being able to. It's tough to leap, you know what I mean? Because you gotta let both feet go. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
It's tough. It's tough, but congrats, man. It's good to see someone chase their dream, land on their feet in that new execution, and be able to run full steam with it, and then bring others with you as far as the youth and the new business college. That's dope, man. I know it's my first time meeting you, but kudos and congrats, man. That's amazing.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
What's up,
Yeah. No, that's dope, man. Cause so it's probably like 2015, right? And I'm working at Sinai. I'm doing a specific task, and the same guy, Ed Peterson, right? He sends out a new position that's opening, and I applied for it. Shot in the dark to try and do something different, and like the minute I found out I was getting that position, what I'm saying, the first person to call me was Lawrence. You know what I'm saying? And we sat in the room, and what I mean, he just told me, listen, man, like just to see another brother trying to do something with his life and trying to make, be a role model and do a little bit more was special. And I'll never forget, he gave me the book, The Leader Without a Title by Robin Sharma. And that changed everything for me. You know what I mean? So when you did leave, it was like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, we losing one of the good ones, but then when we reconnected, I think a little after COVID, and you came and spoke to the group, I thought it was so important because, just to tie it all back to what you're doing right now in Lehman, that strategic learning. So now, was the experiential, school of business something that was already there, or was that something that you came up with?
No, it was. So Lehman had been fighting for, so CUNY, the whole CUNY system is these 25 combination of community colleges and senior colleges, right? 4-year college. There's 25 in the system. And oftentimes what they do, they're always fighting for what their brand is. So for example, Baruch College is known for business. They have the Zinkland School of Business. And so for a long time, they've been always politically making sure no other school has a business school, right? Whether they do it indirectly or they do it directly, where they say, we're leveling up our business school, making it harder for that barrier entry so that it's desirable, right? It's like Harvard is desirable. It's hard to get there, but once you get in, you made it. So they raise the stakes. But other schools are like, hey, we want a business school too. So Lehman has been, so there's a couple of Brooklyn College just opened their business school. The College of Staten Island opened their business school about 10 years ago. But Baruch has a handle on it. And so Lehman had been fighting for the last 10 years. I was doing something on the other side of the campus where I was connecting software engineers to the tech industry. And making sure that they level up and getting them prepared to make that leap. And again, as an adult coming back into this space, I have my hand, I know politics, I know how to walk into a room and read it. So I took this very differently. I knew who the power players were because that's what I did for a living, right? And so I knew who to connect with. And then, your reputation capital is everything.
Right.
because you can't make the deposits on that, right? It's not like a bank account say, okay, I'm going to make a deposit. Now my account looks this big. When it comes to your reputation, other people make deposits into your account. If you're reliable, if you stick to your word, if you show up, that stuff gets into, that's reputational capital. So I had known that, I knew that, my whole career, I understood that. And so going into Lehman, I understood I had to be with the power players. I had to make sure I show up. I wanted to be in that room. I hate as a human being since I was little. I hate when grownups go off and then they start making a decision, my parent, and then they come back and be like, this is how it's going to be. Oh my, that shit drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So from being a young person, I always want to be in the room. I don't even care if I can't make a decision at the table. I need to know the conversation that's going on. And so I approach all those things like that, right? And so when I got to Lehman, I did the same thing. And then as they were creating this business school, they had saw all the work I was doing on the software engineer side. And I was pretty lucky because we had 4 different presidents in that way. So even though that sounds chaotic at a college, what it did for me was there was no culture rooted in. And from being, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Yeah. You come in and you say, oh, I got the greatest game plan out. And then everybody's looking at you like, but that ain't part of our culture.
That's right.
I don't care how good your strategies. I don't care how you outline the resources. If the culture's not on board, it's not going to go down.
Right.
And so this allowed me, because of so many transitions in the present, to figure out my niche and then get to the people I need to get to. So when the opportunity came up, the provost said to the dean of the business school, who I already had been working with, you need to hire Lawrence, right? You need to go and get him. But I was already in the running for another position. And so I'm going to just say this. How much can I say on this podcast?
You can say whatever you want, man.
I'm just going to say I let other people fight over me. Like, I'm not getting involved in that. I just want to say that. I'm not getting involved in that. And I said yes to one thing, and people called me. I thought you were going to stay here with me. Look, I did my 20-year-old self would have found an obligation to do that, right? As you start getting older, you start understanding your value, what you bring to the table, right? And what your leverage is. And so the business school is, I'm twice a Lehman alum. I'm on the board, the alumni board. So for me, it was like, this was perfect. And education is a little bit different. It's a very grant-driven kind of system. And so at the business school, I have a line. And that line means that I'm in the budget, where on this side of the house, I had always been in grants and all that stuff. So I had to do what was right for me, despite the infighting and maybe some promises that people thought I made that I never said. I had to do what was right for me and my family, but despite that, it made sense to be here and showing students just about, one, you can't be what you can't see, right? And so, and going back to the conversation, Shawn, that me and you had, that was really where my conversation stemmed from, is that if you saw me bring you in, I know you're going to see somebody else and bring them in.
Yep.
Right? Like, I know that you're going to feel like, man, somebody gave me this or did this for me. I'm going to have to pay it for it. I don't even have to say it, right? Now, I wouldn't bring an asshole in. I wouldn't, right? And I like Zora Neale Hurston, who's one of the best Black writers. She says this, or she's obviously passed away, but she said, all kinfolk or all skin folk ain't your kinfolk. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yes, and so sometimes we're caught in this paradox where we're like, everybody that's my color, do I have to look out for everybody that's my color, right? I don't get even wrapped up in that. I go look for who is my kinfolk, just period. Just period. And just the way you carried yourself, Shawn, and just the way you went about business was like, I know it was my responsibility, not yours. It was my responsibility to make sure I see you. I see what you're doing. I support what you're doing. And just in case you need anything or something, you're trying to figure something out, I'm here. You don't need to, whatever you need, I'm here. And I think that that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the stuff you were saying, man, reminds me of what Dion just went through. You know what I mean? All these expectations that people thought he was supposed to have and all these promises that they said he made. But at the end of the day, he made the best decision for him. And a lot of times, and I feel like as a culture, we just tear each other apart for doing the best thing for each other because it's not seen as the cultural thing to do at the time.
Unfortunately, negativity is easier to spew for some reason. I never understood that.
Yeah.
Being positive takes nothing, costs nothing. You know what I mean? And giving someone a positive feedback towards somebody else is always a plus. But Deion did what he had to do, man. If any other coach got a Big Five job, that's their job.
Yeah.
Their job is to go to the next step. But
Right.
he did what he had to do. He got us very close to a championship, undefeated season. But tomato. He did what he had to do. He brought eyes to Jackson State. You know what I mean? Like, I own a hat now because he went there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't even know what Jackson State was. So.
I was on the train yesterday. People are getting back on well, I know you don't take the train, but for my folks out there who take the train, you know when you're sitting down and there's a little bit of space between you and the next person, and people come and they're like, and then they sit on you and the next person. That's back.
That's bad. But yeah, everything's good, man. Can't complain. Family's good. Health is all right. Definitely still got to get back in the gym. I promised myself November 1st. And we here already, so that's why I don't never tell myself the year. But you know what I mean? What was your first social media name? You had like a porn name, right?
Nah.
Nigga said Shawn McNasty.
And look, and here's the truth, right? When he go to Colorado, he's still gonna be helping black people because they still gonna be coming to Colorado.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, if we're talking about the infrastructure of HBCUs, I don't think that that's solely his responsibility, right? Like that's a system, and systems work because they serve certain people. It's just like the justice system. The justice system works because it serves certain people, right? That's why it's not dismantled, because it works for certain people. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we know his bottom line are going to be black people. At the end of the day, Colorado is going to look different at the end of the day.
Yeah, sure.
And until he goes on to someplace else, but it's going to look different.
Yeah, sure. I agree.
Well, sure.
I agree, man.
I do agree with that one. I know you stated as far as your dynamic with you and Shawn, you saw something in Shawn that you felt it was worth bringing up. I guess whether it be grooming or whatever the case may be. Outside of Mr. Peterson, who you look to as a mentor, was there anyone else that you kind of tip your hat to as far as being that push or that light to follow in your path?
Yeah, I mean, so me and Ed are probably more like peers. And I see Shawn as a peer too. It's like, look, mentorship and is a bi-directional relationship, right? It's like you have a mentor, you should bring some. If you're a mentee, you should bring some value to that relationship, right? For me, it's interesting because my very first mentor was a doctor, a Jewish lady who hated sports, who loved the opera, who maybe 4'11", 5'1", a brilliant radiologist. And the reason why I say she was my first mentor, because she didn't talk a lot. And I was about 18, 19. I was working in radiology at Columbia, was working in the dark room. And she just saw my hustle, the way I showed up, the way I asked questions. And she told me to come to her office. And I thought, like, I'm getting fired for something. Did she hear me cursing at somebody when I was walking to the train station? I never get nothing on the ground. And that's what we wrestle with, right? It's like older and young, it's like, okay, what did I do? We never go in and like, oh, this got to be the big promotion, right? Because we always think the opposite. And she called me and she sat me down and she said, I'm gonna fire, if you don't get out of here, I'm gonna fire you in 2 years. And I was like, what? She was like, I know why she called me in. Because I asked for the day off because I wanted to apply for all the civil service jobs. I wanted to apply for firemen, sanitation. I was 18, 19, right? I was wanting to apply for all these jobs. And I said, Dr. Silverstein, can I have next Friday off? Because I'm applying for all these jobs and I want to be honest with you that this is what I'm doing. And she said, can you come to my office, when you get a chance? And so I came to the office that afternoon. She sat me down. And I thought she was just going to fire me on the spot because I told her that these jobs that I was going to look for. And she said, if you don't get out of here in 2 years, I'm going to fire you if you don't get those jobs. And I was like, what happened? She was like, you're not a sanitation person. You're not a police officer. You're not that, like, you have bigger dreams, and I think you don't see them. And so what I need you to start doing is to start looking for a person to replace you now. Like, go find somebody you think that can do your job so that you can get a better job, because you don't even belong here. And I didn't even know that about myself, right? Like, I knew my approach to things, but I didn't know that about myself. And so I got on that mission. At 19, I got my boy the job. She started connecting me to other people. And I totally went off the rails. I never even thought about sanitation, which I think are noble jobs, but I never thought about that again. And, you know, and I tell students this all the time: your net worth is as big as your network, right? You don't have a big network, that's how big your net worth is going to be. And that net worth is not necessarily money or capital in that way, but just if I call Shawn on the phone and say, hey, Shawn, I need to talk about some diversity. I got students struggling with X, Y, and Z. He'll go, got you, L. Let me know when we're going to do that. If he needs me, and that's how big your net worth becomes, because my network is big. So I kind of realized that a little early, that's what that was about. And so she became my first mentor. And it was really about, what I learned from her is gratitude and seeing when you look at people, see something in them that can help them blossom. That can, because I'm like, how did this Jewish white woman who loves the opera, I'm wearing Knicks hats. I got, this is the Pat Ewing era and all that. I'm into, like, I thought we were at opposite sides of the spectrum, but she had looked at how I approach things. She watched how I talked to people. She watched how I said yes to everything. She was watching those things. She didn't get caught up in, like, you know, is this a black man? Why is he wearing a hat? Like, she looked at the potential of another human being. And I you know, God bless her, I stole that. I just forever looked at the potential of another human being. I just felt like that was my job, is to look at the potential of a human being.
Yeah, man. And you wish you could harness that feeling and just give it to every, you know, young kid coming up in the ghetto, because, you know, they only see a certain task, a certain occupation, and they feel like, you know, that's the only way out. And you know, it's like perfect timing, because, you know, thank God he got out today. You know, DeMar Hamlin is on his way home, or home in Buffalo already. And me and Kenny had like a real, like, in-depth conversation about how much of playing sports as a kid is, you know, love for the game versus this may be the only way to get out of my situation. And, you know, if you go on our page, you'll see how Kenny broke it down really well. But I want to ask you that right now, because sports is a great thing. You know what I mean? It's recreational, it's fun, it keeps us healthy. But some kids are in situations where they feel like they have to do this because I'm not going to get to school. My parents can't afford school. So this is the only way I'm going to get to school. And then after that, we know the slim chances to none of making it to professional, but that's the actual goal. So I'm going to ask you that question. How much of it do you feel is more so just fun for the game, trying to get out, mixture of both, whatever?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all those things. And I think right now we are in such, and, you know, I'll circle right back to your question. When there was the Industrial Revolution, sorry about that. When there was the Industrial Revolution, we were not involved in that. They were making hand over fist, right? When we first came to this country, Social Security was not set up for us. GI bills were not set up for us, right? And then the tech industry came in, and then there was opportunity for everybody. I'm telling you that story because now sports itself has changed. And now you have name and likeness, right? And so if we don't educate our kids about name and likeness and about how you can start making money at the minute you get out of high school, so you can set your game, you can set it up while you're a senior in high school, and the minute you get to college, you can start doing name and likeness. There are young women, because they've been waiting for this. There are young women, especially in playing college basketball, that are making $6,000-$7,000 a month because they're in model shoots, they're in, posing, basketball, doing all kinds of content material, because they understand name and likeness is now is bread and butter. So now in the big picture is not like, oh, I got to make it to the league. I mean, that's an excellent aspirational goal, but there's money on the table right now, right? That you can imagine. You can imagine, let's just say somebody like Christian Laettner, who never panned out in the NBA, right? Imagine what his name and likeness would have been in college.
Yeah.
Because he was such a great player in college, right?
Yeah.
Imagine what Glenn Big Dog Robinson's name would have been in college with this kind of opportunity. And so I look at it as a combination of all these things happening. It's the perfect storm. So if you love the game, right? First of all, it's that D1 disease where people think they gotta play D1. That's the only way. Man, there are studs in D2. There are studs in D3. I'm talking about flat out studs, right? College will write, you want to play college ball, you want to go to the next level, you will see what that commitment looks like. In the past, let's just go 5 years back, when you see that you can't level up to that commitment, a lot of things were happening. Kids were getting depressed, dropping out of school. Now you can go, okay, I can't level up to this commitment, but I can definitely make some money in name and likeness. The proximity I am of the team, I'm on a team, I'm not getting no run, but I'm promoting the team, getting money. Like, there's just such a new landscape in sports. And to be quite honest, nobody's talking about educating us about how much money, because they don't want to give up the house money.
That's right.
That's just about, these kids can be broadcasters in college. Yeah. They can start their own podcast in college and make money in the whole thing. And that was something, NCAA rules, you can't make no money. And so I think that it's an explosion that I think, and it's sad because you're seeing all the NBA players do it. So they're getting their companies, which is okay, but they're getting their companies and they're having these kids in college come to their companies. They're making money, but they're taking the lead on it. And I think there's an entrepreneurial thing happening right now where students can really make money. So you can do sports and do a lot more with it now.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, that's a great breakdown. That's a great breakdown. Hopefully somebody's listening right now that got a kid in college or a kid in college is going to be listening to this right now. Get your money. Get your money.
Books, right mentors, they'll get there though.
Yeah,
that's what's up. Especially for the college student that was great the first year but had the injury. You know what I mean? But but was still famous for what they did in the prior year. So that's always a good avenue to entertain and explore. That's what's up. That's dope.
Yeah, and I think the initial thing, essential thing there was the education. And I think what's great about some content, right? Not all content that's out there right now, but some content is very educational. And if you have the right algorithm going on with your social media, you might run into it a lot more. But it's really just putting it in front of the kids in a way that they can digest it and then actually execute it. And I think that's going to be the most important thing. And, we kind of hope that's what we're doing. In a way, we had a young lady come on here, I believe in our first year, and talk about, teaching your kids about credit. And that was something essential that, we thought was great for kids who you could be like 12 years old and you could learn what you could be doing now to build up your credit. So yeah, man, this is exactly what I knew you was going to come on here, El, and just drop a bunch of gems and just make us look good. You know what I mean? So another thing I want to ask you about that we're really working on, because like you said, right, seeing yourself in leadership, right, knowing that you can get there. The new line that we're trying to lock down as far as what's the best way to execute it is equity in mentorship, right? And when you say that to a lot of people, they don't really know what it means. So when you hear something like that, equity in mentorship, what does that mean to you?
Equity in mentorship.
Yes.
I don't know. Equity, I know the definition of both, obviously, but equity in mentorship. I don't know, Shawn, tell me.
So it's two avenues. And listen, I'm still, navigating this myself, right? Because I was hoping you was gonna give me the answer.
Yeah.
So
Equity and leadership.
yeah, so I'll tell you what it looks like for me, right? Because there's two ways of it. It's equity in mentorship, and then there's equity through mentorship.
Okay.
So equity in mentorship is pretty much what you were saying, right? I come into an institution. Are there enough people who look like me in
Oh,
leadership
okay.
that I could, look to for mentorship, right? Now, equity through mentorship is, in that mentorship, is there that bifurcated approach where it can be almost formal and then informal, where you can literally, give me a plan, I align with what you do, or I align with your leadership skills, and where can what you have learned take me? And then there's the other piece of this where it's more so of informal, where you may be, director of experiential, leadership at College of Business, whereas I'm going more towards the diversity and equity side. But you have a way that you approach leadership. And I may say, I want to talk to L because I know when I speak to L's going to give me the real lowdown about, as you start to navigate through the laws of power and the laws of leadership, this is the way you probably want to conduct yourself, right? You said perfectly. Always make sure you're in the room. You know what I mean? How do you get in the room? Once you're in the room, how do you stay at the room? Never leave the room without giving something of value. So that's one of the key drivers right now that I find like a lot of institutions are struggling with, how to actually define equity in and equity through mentorship.
Yeah, no, that's it. Now I get it. I mean, I see the struggle, right? It's a threat. It's a threat. I mean, look, if I know for X amount of years that this is the way the ship has been sailing, right? And it's never been sailing in everybody's direction. It's been sailing specifically in one person's direction. And then I go, okay, you can take over. You can drive. We know the ship is going to sail a different way, right? And so there, it's a threat. I get it, right? I know if I was leading all the time and I wanted to see the same people all the time, and I wanted to make sure that the same people come up the corporate ladder, then all of a sudden we're now saying there has to be equity in all of that, right? Which is just a fancy word for equality. It's just what Martin Luther King said, right? It's just now we want to see equality in the way people come. Like it's a threat. It's a threat because I would think if I was, I tell my wife this all the time. For one day, I want to be a fat, bald, rich white man for one day. I just want to feel how that feels to just like everybody's at your beck and call. You look like shit, but everybody's at your beck and call. You got crazy money. I got a beer. I'm fat. I'm driving a Ferrari, but like I just want to get that feeling one time, right? Because when you think about it, you can imagine what that threat feels like to somebody if they've been running this thing for 200 years, running this process, and then you say, no, the people that you actually been kind of holding down, whether it's you indirectly, whether it's the system, now you got to level those people up. And so, I told you, Shawn, I think I called you one time I had read this book in Race and Leadership. Me and you were talking, and I said, because Shawn called me and said, hey, El, I'm thinking about a transition. They want me to come on this side of the house. And, I always ask the question back to people when I'm talking to them, because I hate the word advice. I like more like the word suggestion. Here's my suggestion, right? And then Shawn had made the decision that, hey, I'm going to stay on my side of the house for now. And that stuck with me because I just love when we make decisions for ourselves, period. End of story. When we make decisions for ourselves. And so I was reading this book on race and leadership, and I called Shawn and I said, you made the best fucking decision you could possibly make. And I said, the reason why, Shawn, is because they want you on that diversity side, right? They want you because then they can see you coming from that side. When you stay on your side of the house, you are keeping that thing going in a different space in the house, right? It's like, I'm going to just get crazy with this a little bit. It's like there's slave quarters. That's where all the slaves are, right? For a specific reason. That's where you can find them. Now, when we say break all that up, you still want to be able to find them someplace else. Even if they take the word slave quarters off, they still want to be able to find people where they belong. And that's why I thought, Shawn, that this is why they're trying to come and get you and say, hey, you should come on the diversity side, because they want to be able to find you. And the fact that you did make that move, it keeps that relative all the time. And I just thought, that's a power that for me, not being at Mount Sinai and knowing you're there, I feel good that, some kind of hell is going to get raised, right? They have to throw you out the bar, break the window and all that. But some hell is going to be raised. And I love that. I love that. And you came to that conclusion. I was just sharing with you what I was reading and what made sense. But you came to that conclusion and I love it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. So we're New York-based podcast, and if anybody knows, right now in New York City, it's the first day of the nurses' strike, right? And neither here nor there. You know what I mean? As a patient, seeing all this going on, I can only imagine how they feel, like seeing people on the news, seeing picketing, seeing the messages that are coming from the institutions, and as a patient, you're starting to wonder what's really happening behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like how is patient care coming down to you're willing to walk out on me, and rightfully so. This is no criticism to the nurses, because they have their fair stick in this, right? But I can only speak as a patient. I'm supposed to come in somewhere and you guys are trying to figure out how to have fair work practices. From your perspective, being on that side of the fence at some point and then now being away from it, when you see this stuff happen, how does it make you feel?
I mean, so I'll share some personal information. I don't know if you noticed, Shawn, but so my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer in the beginning of last year. She's now cancer free.
Oh man, God bless.
I appreciate it. And it was a battle last year. But we had some amazing nurses, amazing doctors. I am privileged to have been in healthcare, and this goes back to reputational capital. I was able to get on the phone. I have friends that are physicians, and I mean, I got the best team I could possibly get. As a husband of a person that's going through chemo and all that stuff, all the things that my wife is going through, all those struggles, for me, it's pay them. Just like flat out pay them. Here's the thing. For me, if you want to be strategic, if I'm sitting in the room and I'm just looking at numbers, if I'm just looking at flat out numbers and going, hey, this hurts the bottom line. How do we do this? We're fighting with the union. They want this. They want a 3-year this. I would say, do we have the best damn nurses in the hospital that we could possibly have? Like, do we have the best nurses, right? Somebody goes, well, we looked at our scores and, we're at a 4. We're at a 4.6. I want you to pay these nurses, and it's going to be somebody's job to put all of them at a 5, which means that we level up nurses, right? So that the pay justifies that, right? It just flat out. And I had the same argument. My grandmother has my grandmother's 94. My wife's grandmother's 94 years old, and she has a home attendant. She's had like 17 home attendants because my wife is like adamant on like, this is my 94-year-old grandmother, you got to do it this way. And the reason why she has 17 home attendants because they all get paid $15 an hour. I don't care how old your grandmother, I don't care how wise your grandmother is, I don't care how much of a she's going to be revered for being 95, 96 years old. I don't care. I got to pay the bills. I got to pay the bills, right? And so at the end of the day, the people that in leadership, in my mind, is you don't want this to happen, you have to pay, but there can be a plan, right? You can, hey, I'm going to pay you guys, this is going to get a 5% raise, this is going to be the thing. But here is what's at the bargaining table. And I think that, I imagine that does happen, but there has to be a disconnect, right? There has to be some sort of disconnect that I wish I was in those rooms. But at the end of the day, as somebody who just came out of nurses, I mean, going above and beyond for my family. Physicians going above and beyond for my family. I just say you give them the money. But there has to be a plan. I know that this is a business, but I would say after they give them the money, let's level the nurses up. Let's ask them to be better than what they can be, which I think is possible because I've seen it. I've seen it. We turn this into jobs, right?
Yeah.
We've turned this into jobs and less of coming into work knowing that you're in a life-changing business, period.
Right.
You're in a life-changing business, period. I say that in education and I say that in healthcare. You're in a life-changing business. Somebody walks in and they've gotten a diagnosis, and I remember when my wife first got the diagnosis, she was already talking about, like, if this happens to me, do that. And I'm like, no, we don't do that. We're not
even putting that in the air.
You know what I'm saying? We're not doing that. And would help support that, because I'm not a physician, I'm not an oncologist, would help support that with the nurses and doctors, that we were not doing that. And so I think you pay them. I think you got to have a better plan. We've seen this come around every 4, 5, or 6 years.
Yeah.
The media is getting better. I mean, Mount Sinai did something last night on TV where they were saying, I think it was Mount Sinai, they were moving the babies to another unit, right? And of course, that pulls at everybody's heartstrings.
Yeah.
Babies out and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And, I would argue, if I'm a nurse, it's like, yeah, I'm leaving my baby home too, and I can't, and I can't feed them. So, I don't think there's ever any winners. And I hate the fact that we ask the public to pick sides. And look, we know the pay discrepancy. We know the pay discrepancy with leadership and all that kind of stuff. So I'm in right now today. It's like you got to pay them. We got to level up. It should be healthy competition. The nurses at Mount Sinai should be in competition with the nurses at Memorial Sloan Kettering in a healthy, competitive way.
Yeah.
Not who has the best lights and the best lobby when you walk in, but who has the best empathy, who makes patients feel like they're going to make it no matter what. Those kinds of things matter when you walk in. I was just at, my wife had to do a checkup, and I went into the cancer center and I went to see one person, and that was the security guard that was just an amazing human being. She just knew, I'm pushing y'all through. You're not waiting on no lines. I don't know whether she could see in my wife's eyes that this is the scariest moment in her life. And I go back to see her. I just go back to say, sometimes people don't know that that empathy, that caring thing, man, that stuff is priceless. And I just think that it's just unfortunate because it makes you pick. They want you to pick sides, but I'm indifferent to it. I think you should pay them, but I also think that there should be a plan that they be the best that they can possibly be.
Yeah,
weed out the bad ones and get to make sure the good ones.
What was weird about it, which I did a little bit of research on the whole strike over the weekend. Not that pay was an issue, because it's always a concern, but even if they were willing to pay what they were requesting, it's still not enough. It's a bodies issue. You can pay all the nurses that are on staff what they want. They can come tomorrow. Okay, this is what I asked you for on my pay rate. Thanks. But I still can't cover these 3 shifts by myself. I still can't come here today at 7 o'clock, and then tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and then the next 6 days in a row at 7 o'clock, and have no relief. You know what I mean? And I think, and that's what's weird, because now there's a niche or a void where the same crop or amount of nurses that were coming in year after year after year after year starting to dwindle down. And now the older nurses are starting to get up and retire. They're like, I'm not putting in these double, triple shifts by myself. Like, I have the empathy, I have the knowledge, I have the courage, I'm here to help anybody that comes to these doors with any issue, but I can't do that by myself. And I think now the argument is more so we need more of people like us who care, not just this color, not just this creed, just people that care for the position in these doors on this side to help others. And without those bodies, they can pay whatever they want. If there's nobody to accept these checks, who's going to do the work? That's what I'm nervous about, because a lot of the nurses, they're finding other niches, like how Lawrence was saying earlier, athletes who was unable to get to that top athlete level. There are other things they can do and still get their voice out, still make a coin. You know what I mean? And a lot of nurses are finding ways to go into a private practice where, hey, the knowledge that I have is more than enough for the 10, 15 patients that they can handle this week versus 100 patients the same week, you know what I mean, with a lot more stress. So I just don't know where that middle ground is. I'm just nervous about it because I don't know where that middle ground goes.
I totally agree. And I mean, I think you guys may know this better than I do, but I'm almost certain that traveling nurses make double the amount. And they all know that too. They all know that. And that's just another just another avenue that they can go down. Like, I'm out of this game. I'll travel. I'll go to Arizona where they need help and pay me double. So I think we got to figure out, to your point, we got to figure out how we make it more attractive so that there's more resources and people want to be in this game. And sometimes what happens is, we're always going to go, it's never not, because we don't feel like you're fighting, that you're doing things in our best interest. So we're always going to be like, nah, I'm not doing this because this is not, I mean, they seen this game play out all the time. So I hope we get it together. I hope more men get into the space. I think that is important, that we see more men in this space. But I hope it works out for the better, because, I mean, to be quite honest, if we were going through what we were going through now at this point, oh man, it would be crazy. I think.
Staff shortages is, I think everybody knows what that means. I mean, even before COVID, you can remember going into an ED and wondering like who works here. And that's exactly what the fight is for right now. So, Kenny, you're spot on. It's all about healthcare, like it's a culture transformation for healthcare. I mean, you could look at how telehealth exposed all the disparities in healthcare for Black people and minority areas. You look at how certain providers and certain clinics, or not even clinics, certain offices don't take certain insurances, but they're based in low income areas. So now it's like everything is being exposed over the last 2-3 years, and it's like, is this going to be lessons learned where now we can create a better world so that that baby that's being born today doesn't have to experience this type of debacle when they get older. But like you said, Lawrence, like this is history repeating itself. You get to the negotiation table, I want this and you don't do this, but I have to do this and you need to care about this, and there are no winners. You said it perfectly. I hope something happens very soon, because with everything that Sinai's trying to do with roadmap to anti-racism and all this other stuff, and we're supposed to be the leader in diversity and inclusion and equity initiatives. So right now, to have this be how you come into 2023, I'm pretty sure it's definitely a chance for us to come out better.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see, man. Great job. I like what both y'all said. That's awesome.
Not to poke the dying bear, unfortunately. I know, Lawrence, you within the medical field, kind of in the past life now. You kind of moved on, but you still you're still knee deep, unfortunately. This was day one of strike, so to speak. Like, what's, if there is no resolution, a week from now, a month from now, like what do you foresee other than chaos?
The first thing that I fear is mortality rate. You have patients that are very dependent on good nursing care and presence, and right now it's either replacement nurses or whatever plan that's in place looking over them. You wonder, how is that going to go, right? Of course, they like you said, they moved the kids in the NICU, but there are still some patients, oncology patients that are still there. You know what I mean? Anybody who was supposed to deliver a baby today probably had to go to another campus. So those are the things that are my number one concern, right? The patients. The second thing is, this is a loss of revenue on both sides. You know what I mean? And it's in a year where most companies' budgets are tight. I mean, just from looking at insurance rates that went into effect this year for most companies, this is one of the highest years of actually providing insurances for your employees that any business has ever saw. So you can imagine all that money that was spent to provide this insurance for them for this year, and they're not working right now. Granted, but like I said, this hits both sides. If anybody was listening, right? The nurses aren't getting paid right now. There may be some funds in the NISNA that can cover them, but it's nowhere near what they would get paid if they were working. But the hospital loses millions of dollars every day because there's certain elective procedures that they can't do because they don't have enough nurses on site. So this is like when Elle said no winners after patient care, the bottom line is going down. And when I tell you that that's the number 2 issue here, is that's going to be, like, I can't tell you how many emails are probably going around at Montefiore and at Mount Sinai about, we need to start doing impact analysis. You know what I'm saying? So those are the 2 things. Nah, so just and I don't know if you saw this in your research, but Minnesota just went through this where they had 7 days of a strike and then 41 days.
Mhm.
So they hit that month over a month marker where they lost, I think, north of like 150 million.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So, and if you read enough, you saw this coming because there were more strikes last year than I think that have ever happened when it came to nurses because they're just sick of it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So, that yeah, those are my two fears: the mortality rate of our patients, and then of course, second is the revenue loss on both sides.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not to go to the sports analogy, but if Patrick Ewing gets hurt, like there was a backup center. Like there is no backup nurse really. There's no. It's like
That's the
there.
thing.
That's
The thing. And there was actual research at one hospital where a nurse that was a replacement nurse gave the wrong medication. You know, and not at Sinai, I won't say the institution that it was, but that actually happens when you go with a replacement nurse. There is that risk.
Right. Right.
Damn.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as medicine gets involved, and if it ain't
Yeah,
correct,
man. Yeah.
like I can hear the lawyer's hotline just buzzing. That's terrible.
Absolutely.
Terrible.
Absolutely. So I guess do you feel like over the last couple of years there's been a more of a let's say a pride in CUNY? Because I gotta admit, when I was coming up, it was like CUNY was looked at as like, oh, you're going to CUNY school, you know what I mean? And I never felt that way because I felt education is what you do with it, right? But over your last couple of years being at Lehman, do you feel like CUNY is getting more of a prestige rep?
It's a great question because it depends on what circle you're in. Okay. Right? It really depends on what circle, and I'll tell you. So, when I was connecting software engineers to the tech industry, I instinctively knew that we don't come with a shingle on the door, which means I'll give you a prime example. I was having our students work at Business Insider, and I went down into their headquarters at Business Insider, was talking about how our students are doing, and I knew at Business Insider they hired Ivy League kids as well. And so I asked them, what's the difference between a Lehman student and a Columbia student? He said, well, Columbia students, they come in, they look at the place and go, do I really want to work here? Is this someplace I want to work? Is this someplace I want to take the elevator? Do I want to come here every morning? Right. And your students come in hustling. What can I do next? How can I do this? Yeah, I did this. This is what I want to do. And so, but that's all to say that they're still going to make sure they go get the Columbia student, despite what they know, despite the risk that they're taking, the investment that they're making in time and resources, they're still going to go get the Columbia student, right? Because the Columbia students come in with the shingle. The minute one of my students call out sick, do something, it's like, nah, we're not going back to get those Lehman kids. Like, that's not going to go. So it's always an uphill battle. You always, I got to sell the brand. I got to make sure that my students are prepared. Some people feel like CUNY students have a hustle in them that, other schools don't. Some students feel like, some places feel like it's a watered down education. Both of those things are right. Both of those things are right. And I think that's right anywhere. If you talk to a kid that went to UPenn or Harvard, if they was just bullshitting, they'll tell you, I bullshitted my way through college, right? At the end of the day, it's an expensive, watered down education. They ain't learned anything, right? But they have this shingle that we say they went to Harvard, so they must be X, Y, and Z. If you approach CUNY with this laissez-faire attitude and you go in, you're going to get a watered down education, and it's going to really fucking show because you don't even have a shingle, right? You don't even want to say where you came from when you don't know nothing. And so I think both those things exist. It's like you got to make of it what you want to make of it. And I think where we could get better at, and this is how we preface this conversation, is understanding that intersection between when I get to college, what I want, who I want to become, that it's okay that I can do something different, and that really success is a crooked line. And sometimes you're like, is that for college? It absolutely fucking is for college. Like, it absolutely is. And if you think it's anything less, that's what we're doing a disservice to our kids. If you think it's, look, 120 credits, that's an outdated outcome. We know that's what it takes to get a degree. What the new metric is, what happens, what's the value of the degree, where does it take you, how does it make you feel, are there transferable skills in that degree, have you learned anything, have you made a bigger network? That's more important. If you ask kids at CUNY what's the most important thing to them, it's the same thing to everybody else. I want to make sure I can make a living, period. Period. End of story. End of story. I want to make sure I can make a living. I want to make sure after a certain amount of time I can dictate what kind of living I want to make. Look, the internet, social media, and all that has exposed all of that, right? It's almost like sports, right? It was like we had no idea what Michael Jordan's work ethic was, how hard he worked. We were only told that he did that stuff. And it made sense because he was the best player every single night on the court, right? This way, this new way, where kids can see exactly what athletes are doing, how they're doing it. For me, it takes away the mystique, right? It just takes away the mystique of like, you know, how this stuff really works. We can't argue with it. You know, I say this all the time. It's like, it's only new technology if you're here when it didn't exist. If you're born into social media, that's not new technology. Right. That's not new. Yep. That's everyday stuff. It's new technology to us because we remember beepers and we remember, you know, when the internet came, we remember when cell phones first came. That's stuff that we had to have a learning curve to understand. But this new generation is like they're born into it. And so they get a window seat at all of the success. And I think sometimes it clouds their judgment. Yeah. It clouds their judgment about how we approach things. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, no.
Youth today is definitely a little jaded as far as just not having to go through what we went through. Like it's so funny. Like, you know, having your own children, they don't ask to go outside no more. It's the weirdest thing. And honestly, and what's even
I would jump out the window, Kenny, to go outside. we lived on the 24th floor. I would jump out the window to go outside. But I think you're absolutely right. And on a real serious note, I think what's happening, especially in education, I had this conversation today. We had a retreat where they were talking about, education is not important. Google is saying they're hire people, they don't have to have a degree. That's not for us. Please put earplugs in your kids' ears. That's not for us, right? Yeah. Education is the way that they will filter us out. Correct. Education is a passport to be here, right? Mm-hmm. If I'm a Black man and I'm not educated and I don't have a degree, when I move to Seattle, that ain't going to
done.
Right? That's not going to work. And so that conversation is happening a lot. And look, kids are buying into it. Oh, you don't have to have a degree. Google is saying it now. IBM has just said it now. You don't have to do. Like, what kind of person do you want to hire? Right? They want to hire somebody that is exceptionally smart, that is a network. If you're going to hire a software engineer without a degree, he must be a third, fourth generation software engineer. His grandpa was one. Look, we not only are we first generation students, but oftentimes we're first generation corporate.
Yeah.
We can't even come home to our parents and be like, yo, this is the politics that's happening in the office, right? They like, and no disrespect to them, they're noble, but they're like, I'm working at Hunts Point. I ain't got time. I'm doing bananas and apples and all that other shit. I ain't got time for this. Yeah. I have no idea why your boss called you in for X, Y, and Z. And I think first generation is cool, but that first generation comes with a lot of stuff. First generation corporate, first generation finance, all this kind of stuff. And so for me, it's like, we can't listen to, you don't need a degree and all that stuff. We need that. What we need to do is make that degree much more valuable than what it is or what it seems to be. So, and I think that's why I love the role of experiential learning, because it's about the experience of colleges. It's about the experience of what you want to be and how you want to go about your life. So that's
man. No, I love it. I love it. So, we can't let you leave here without talking about some basketball, man. It's an interesting year for New York basketball. The Knicks started off looking like they were going to be promising, and it looks like they've hit some bumps in the road. But the Nets are actually coming, they started the opposite way. They started out looking real rocky, and now they look like they put a lot of wins together. First tell us, which one are you rooting for to really do something this year?
Well, first of all, the Nets are a classic AAU team. They're have a classic AAU mindset. Classic, right? I coached at Riverside for 8 years. I coach kids that are in the NBA, and they remind me of just a classic AAU team. And that is, we didn't win, so I need to find someplace else to win, right? We didn't win. I need to find someplace else to win. And as a coach, what you do is you just let that go. And they start talking to their parents. I got to get out of here and the whole thing. As a coach, you just let that go, because here's something that, first of all, they hired the perfect person in Jock Vaughn.
Yes.
Right? They hired the perfect person in Jock Vaughn. Here's what happens. Ball players ball, man. Real ball players just flat out ball. And if you catch magic in a bottle, they'll figure that whole thing out, right? I say that if James Harden, if somebody would have been able to convince James Harden that this boat was going to go the right way, and I think it's a lot with his work ethic and all that stuff at the time, but I think if he would have had a different mindset and waited this thing out, that would have been, I mean, I think they got a chance to do a lot of good things, but because I think at the end of the day, what Kevin Garnett respects about Kyrie is that they're just ballers. They just flat out play ball. And when I say that, I mean, like, they love doing that more than anything else.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Shaq documentary, right? Yeah. There was a time in the Shaq documentary, like, he just wanted to do a whole bunch of other things. And so Kobe was like, nah, this is all I do. And I think that Kyrie and Kevin have that in common. Is like, I'm not gonna say this is all they do, but this is what they really like to do. So I tend to go in the space of that the Nets are going to do better. And obviously, when you look at the leadership, all the players all the players that are impact players, Kevin and Kyrie, to say those two, have a direct line to the owner, right? Have a direct line. Until the Knicks sell, right? Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, I can tell you this from coaching basketball, right? Coaching AU at a really high level. Your best players got to be able to get to you, period, end of story. They got to be able to vent to you. They got to be able to tell you this shit sucks. They got to be able to have an argument, and they got to be able to take it back. And we saw in the public what they wanted us to see, that Kevin Garnett was going straight to ownership. I don't like this shit. Get rid of Steve Nash. Dolan will not allow that. You guys work for me. He will not allow that. And so it stops at the general manager world. Forgot my boy's name. That is the GM for the Knicks. But it stops there.
Yeah, I forgot his name.
World Be Free. I forgot. Is it World Be Free? I forgot who it is. I forgot who they got on their team. Yeah. But the bottom line is the way that the hierarchy is set up with the Knicks. They're still in that 1970 hierarchy.
I agree.
And look, Jerry Buss figured that out a long time ago. Yo, the best player, Magic Johnson, I need him to have the bat phone. And if you watch Magic Johnson's documentary, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar actually said it. We realized that Magic Johnson was part of management. We realized that this young kid was part of management. That this young kid was gonna tell people, like, he was gonna have influence on how this game was played. And I think that is the reason Michael Jordan had so much friction with Jerry Reinsdorf, is because they were they conducted business like Dolan does. But the one thing that Michael Jordan had, and I actually believe, this is what I actually believe, that he had conversations with Kobe Bryant just about this. If you got a team that win, fuck all that other shit. Yeah. I just believe that he had that, because I don't know if you remember when Kobe was like, I want out of LA.
Yeah, I remember.
And what we know about Kobe now is that this dude was full of mentors. Like, as much as we thought that he was an introvert and he was isolated, this dude just depended on mentors. So when you hear everybody, like when Gary Payton talks about how he met with Kobe and he taught him how to play defense, when Kobe talks about how he talked to Derek Jeter, and he wants to understand the mindset of people that perform at a high level. I just think he went to Mike, and Mike said, yo, look, I knew these guys were assholes upstairs, but I had the second best player in the league, meaning Scottie Pippen. I had a dude that could drink 2 bottles of scotch, right? And run like a fucking deer hours later, right? And then I had a bunch of role players that truly, in the essence of like being stars coming out of college, that were sold on the principles of what we were doing. I'm not gonna Mike. I'm into making history. I'm into history, and I think that he shared that stuff. I think some version of that got into Kobe, and Kobe's like, you know what? I had Paul Gasol. I had all this stuff. We just got to make this thing better.
Man. Yep.
I think until the Knicks do something like that, until they sell a team, I mean, look, we feel it as Knicks fans, is that all they think about is filling up the seats.
Yes.
That's all they feel about is filling up seats. And they love hiring coaches, in my mind, look, basketball is not a disciplinary sport anymore. It's just not to me. There has to be a way where you because of the way the game has changed, where you give autonomy, right? We watch it in Golden State, right? It's just like there's so much autonomy to do the things that you do the best, and let me manage all these other things so you can do the things you do best.
Right.
And this is why they win. I think that this is why, Steph Curry is probably will go down in history as like the most grateful superstar. Ty Jerome, that plays for the Golden State Warriors, his father, I know Ty was one of my good friends that coached at Riverside. Ty played at Riverside. I just smile every time I see him talking to Steph Curry, because I know that he's getting that knowledge, and I know that this is the best place he's ever been, right? And he's an unlikely story that nobody thought he was going to go to the NBA, but it really is finding a system that you belong to. So I think the Nets are closer to that than the Knicks are. I just think that the Nets are closer to that.
And KD's out for a month now, but yeah.
Yeah, he's out for how long? How long?
I think 3 or 4 weeks.
What did he do last?
Sprain MCL.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
And Kyrie relishes that.
Kyrie's like, finally, all mine. Like,
he relishes that.
Yeah, and then it's always like next man up. Like this is the perfect time. If there was ever a time for anybody to go down, you know what I mean? It's right now, because you allowed to give your bench that confidence to get ready for April. So if they could get that run in January and February and get some good minutes and get some key wins and feel trusted taking that shot, that's going to do wonders for that game 6, game 7 in the playoffs, when you can put that guy in and know you could trust him with the ball. So yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah, I think that I think Boston is an incredible team. I think Jaylen Brown is probably the most underrated superstar that we have in the game. When I watch them, Jaylen is going to be Jaylen regardless. He's going to have a hell of a payday when his number gets called. He's going to have a hell of a payday, right? So I can imagine Boston is already working on that, because to me personally, I think he makes their engine go more than Jason Tatum. And Tatum is a star in his own right, but I think Jason Tatum is consumed with being a star.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but it just feels like, remember when LeBron first came to the league, it was like you could almost feel like he was watching himself. He's 18 years old. He's 18 years old, right? You almost felt like he was watching himself he talks about this, until after the Olympics, he said, okay, I am who I am, right? I feel like Jason Tatum is in that space where but I feel like Jaylen Brown is like, I'm that dude, man.
Yeah.
I'm that dude. Every night. Every night. I'm that dude. Not one night, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm that dude every night.
Yeah.
But it's great to see that they both can work together, because everybody was calling for them to break up. I love the fact that they can exist in the same space.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. It's going to be interesting to see if they can put something together, man. My ideal Final Four is probably going to be Celtics, Nets, and probably Warriors, Grizzlies. You know what I mean? Like I would love for that to be game 7s all across the board.
No, that John Morant is different.
Oh yeah,
he's different. He's a little too. I'm just nervous for him the way he plays, but he's different.
Yeah. He's he's Russell Westbrook, but just at a different skill level.
Yeah,
he approaches the game like Russ approaches the game. Where he's fearless, but just real much more smoother and just a different skill level. And I would argue that his leadership skills are really good for being that young.
Yeah.
Skills. Part of being leaders is deferring, and he does a really good job deferring. You almost felt like when Russ was really it was almost like you had to come. Obviously, they didn't do this in that way, but you can see leaders who lead where like everything has to come back to them.
Yeah.
They're gonna do the yes, but they want to hear it first, right? Versus like experiencing leadership, and I think that's what I love about Jai at a young age. He may not even know he's doing this, where he's letting people experience.
Yes.
Over, letting people experience you take that shot. It's not like he's gonna look at you. Why did you take that shot? You did it. It is what it is.
Yeah, because I'm waiting for the year that everything slows down for him. Yeah. Like you saw that last year with Jason Tatum. Like you saw the game slow down for Jason because I'll never forget when he got to the Eastern Conference Finals against Braun and he just wasn't ready. Like Braun was at another level, but to see him like last year and like you said, Jalen put it together, it was like, okay, the game's slowing down for this kid. So I'm waiting for that year that the game slows down for Ja. The West Coast is in trouble when that happens.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you ain't the only one. I know Steph sitting at home like, we better get these things before that happens. Seriously, you better get these things before that happen because you're right. Because when it does do that, they're going to be dynamic, and don't let them pick up another player in a trade. But they got one hell of a core, and they got one hell of a coach. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
The coaching lot. Look, autonomy is really big in basketball. Let them make. I used to tell my players all the time. It's like, look, you can take any fucking shot you want. That shit just better go in, man. That's it. You do whatever you want, and if it doesn't go in, I'm not mad. You're not mad, but just know that there's somebody at the table waiting for you, right? Part of that reason is that I wanted them to have the free space to do it. And when they took a shot that missed, it would be eye contact. We would deliberate with eye contact. Is it your time to come out yet? Or was that it was a good shot, not bad. So, basketball is about about relationships, period.
Yeah, man.
Yep. That's why the Golden State works so well.
Yeah.
And I know Kevin Durant regrets making that move. I know he regrets making that
move. Yeah, man.
That's easily 5 in their pocket. Easy money. Easy money.
Like people say, oh, he wasn't the man like he was. He was the man when he was there for those 2 years. He was,
and they gave it to him.
Yeah,
like, that's what blew my mind.
Draymond said you was the man, but I think it is, and you're young, right? So I don't know if you guys go way back, but a close friend of mine, Antonio McDyess, when he played in the league, right? I'll never forget when he got traded to the Knicks. He I don't know if you guys remember Kurt Thomas.
Yeah.
So McDyess came in, got hurt. Kurt Thomas filled in for him, and I remember he lived at Trump Tower at the time, and we were talking, and he was like, I'm going to go tell Coach that I don't want to start, right? I don't want to start because they got something rolling, and Kurt was real sensitive about starting. I've been on a team; it was my team before McDyess got here, and the whole thing. And so I asked Mac, and we call him Mac. I said, yo, Mac, so what you gonna do? He said, he's probably gonna put me in, but I'm gonna beg for him not. And one of the reasons why Mac was okay with it was because he thought as a coach, you know how to get me at the end of the night 32 minutes. You know how to figure that out.
Yeah.
It's just like last year. Steph didn't care about coming off the bench or not. That doesn't matter. Did I get 32 minutes in? Yep. That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
Period.
That's it. And so that was his thing. Coach put him in anyway. He got hurt again, and so he forever mad. I forgot it was the black coach. I forgot his name. That was Coach McDyess. But basketball is about human relationships, and that's it. And we do that at work. You treat somebody well, they go above and beyond.
Yeah.
Yep. Every time.
They're talking about this quitting culture, about how people are coming to work and they're not working and all that. Well, the truth of it is that they feel like they're undervalued. Why should I give you everything? I'm not getting nothing back in return. We can even talk about the nurses in that way.
Yeah.
I'm not getting anything back in return. I'm gonna quit while I'm getting paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
So if you had to pick a basketball player, it could be present, old, that defines your leadership style, Who would it be?
Oh man, that's a hell of a question. A basketball player that defines my leadership style. Um, the first thing came to my mind was Steph Curry, but I want to make it hard for myself and figure out if there's somebody else. I mean, I love Magic Johnson, man. I love Magic Johnson. But there's another player. I know this is man, you may have thought about this, but on Golden State, Iguodala is really impresses me when I hear him talk, when I hear how he talks to young players, when I hear how he gives them financial advice, the way he pulls them to the side when they first get into the league. I imagine myself being that kind of person where you're pulling players to the side. Look, that $1 million is really $560,000 after you pay taxes and all that kind of stuff. Here's what you do need to do. And all NBA players, I don't know if they still do it now, but when Mac was in the league, you all in your rookie season, right before your season start, they would fly you out to I think they were working with Ernst & Young. I forgot the company, but they would fly you out to San Francisco, go to this orientation and you talk about finances and all stuff. And Mac would tell me half the room is sleep. Have players in the room while they're giving you financial advice. So Iguodala, I think, is probably my leadership style, where it's just that, you always want to be in that servant leadership style. It benefits you at the end of the day. But I love Steph Curry if you wanted to talk about just visibility, and just that the way he is. Look, when you're a leader and you're visible, that means you can be touched. And that means that you can be hurt, right? Like,
yeah.
When you put yourself out there, Shawn, you're at work, you talk about diversity, you are taking a chance. You're taking a chance that somebody is saying, I don't want this guy in the room again.
Yeah.
I don't want him in the room anymore. You're taking that chance every time you do that. And so that takes a lot of leadership. You know that, and you're like, I'm here. I'm going to do it. So I think Steph is holistically, he's probably where I would go. But Magic Johnson is definitely a close, and Iggy is definitely third.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Got the good ones out.
I got one question before we go for you guys. Talk to me about your vision of the podcast, and has it from episode 1? Has your vision changed from episode 50? And if it did, was there an episode where you guys had to make a pivot and go, oh shit, we on to something? Or was there anything there? Or talk to me about that.
Want to go first?
Nah, you go.
It's weird. I feel like every 4 to 5 episodes, we'd be like, oh, this is dope. Let's run with this. Another 4 episodes, 5 episodes go by, and we'd be like, we're pretty good at this one too. You know what I mean? And I think I think it's a little tough for us at the moment because we're good at multiple things. So we're trying to chase 10 things at once. And I think as soon as we start to focus on one drive, we'll be able to truly excel at that one thing. But right now we just got our hands in a lot of different avenues and thought processes, and just the way you can think, how you enjoy business, but you enjoy basketball in the same way. And we're both, I can't talk about both of that, but I'm personally a little too nervous to just solely focus on one thing when we do so many things well. So I think as far as, I don't have one. I don't have one in that regard, but I think we're getting closer every episode as far as to what we should be doing. But I don't think we're there yet.
Right. Love that.
For me, the episode that changed everything was when we sat down with our family member who serves, and a friend of mine who used to serve in the Marines. And I think what stood out for me that day was that when we interact with people, it's a no-brainer. We can go serious, we can go funny, you know what I mean? We could go emotional. And I think that's been the common thing, because he'll tell you, sometimes I'll be like, I think like talking about like relationships and stuff is our thing. But then we'll get on a podcast or we'll do a live show on Instagram with someone that's like a vegan chef, and then that'll generate a lot of buzz. So the common denominator I keep finding is when we talk to people, it's it's natural. You know what I mean? Like if we were to get anybody in front of us, like we didn't plan for this, we had no questions for this. It was just like we can sit in front of anybody, and then once we know what it is that you do and what you like, then it just builds from there, and then we can have fun with it. And I think that's what changed it to where last year we got more guests, and then we started doing more live shows on Instagram, and excuse me, we're about to take it more to TikTok as well. So that's the vision that I have, just more like if I could, without having any conflict of interest, I'd have tried to have a nurse for tomorrow's live show. You know what I mean? Like you know what I'm saying? Like if it wasn't gonna be conflict of interest where I gotta probably worry about an email on Wednesday morning, for sure. That'd have been the go-to, you know what I mean? But I understand the politics of this, right? I gotta be very careful. But it's not a conversation that can't be had. You know what I mean? So that's the vision. More guests, more interaction, more collaboration, because there's a benefit to not just us, but to anybody who watches this stuff.
I for sure, and I love talking to you guys. And I look, the first version of what you do won't be the last version. I see how you guys can go off in different directions and ask incredibly thoughtful questions. Keep up the good work. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people are listening. I don't have to tell you guys that, but you'll be surprised how many people listen. And you'll be surprised how when I get off this call, I already feel +1 on my intellect. Like learn X, Y, and Z. And so, you guys make me better, and hopefully I did the same for you. But this was good stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely,
That's
man.
Another thing I happen to take. Anytime we do have a moment with someone that do allow us, to take a bit of their time, you always come away from that meeting be like, wow, that was good, because there's just some things you didn't expect, you know what I mean? And I enjoyed that, honestly, like just soaking up knowledge in any format, way, shape, or form. But it's always good to just bump heads, pass questions, because that's life, unfortunately. At the end of the day, networking. Your network and our network put together, more people find something out. And every time you hear us, there's something you didn't know before you heard us that you found out after the fact.
Absolutely.
Facts.
I do enjoy it.
Definitely. Well, Lawrence, man, thank you so much, man. Always great to chop it up with you. It was great to have you on here. Finally, I had to wait for the right moment, man. Like I was like, I can't just call. I can call L for anything, but I wanted it to be special, and I'm glad it's number 50. I'm glad it's you, man. And just blessings, brother. Keep shining. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I know there's gonna be a hell of a story about what you're doing one day, man.
Definitely, I appreciate you. Same here.
Man.
Keep it up. Anytime you need me, let me know.
Yeah.
Kenny, my pleasure. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well, man. It's been a pleasure for sure.
Yeah, man. All right, so for everybody listening, man, it's that time of the show, man. You are now released back into your regularly scheduled programming, corporate life, parental life, entrepreneurship, whatever it is that you do. We salute you. I'm Senor Lee.
I'm Kate Katnick.
I'm Lawrence Fauntleroy, and I appreciate being on the 50th.
Awesome, man. See you back next pay week when we lock back in to a free state of mind.
All right, y'all.
We appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, man.